Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? Alrighty, so once and for all, I am going to put an end to a debate that's been going on. In addition to that, I'm going to show you guys where Iraq stands with one of the key economic factors used to determine whether or not to delete the zeros or to increase the exchange rate. When I was chatting with somebody, they said they like the informative videos, but knowing all this information, they don't know how to apply it. And I thought, oh, okay, I get what you're saying. They said if you can make like a checklist, what Iraq needs to do, what we should be looking for to give us an idea of when they might change the exchange rate or when they might delete the zeros. And that's a great idea. So let's go ahead and get into this. Before we get started, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. If you're thinking about buying gold and silver, head on over to our friends at Miles Franklin. The link will be down below in the description. When you make your purchase, make sure you use promo code PIMPY, P-I-M-P-Y, and they'll take care of you. If you have any additional questions, you can reach us over here at this phone number or over here at this particular email. For all orders over $10,000, reach out by email and we'll make sure that you get a great deal. So come on over to Miles Franklin and add to your precious metal inventory. Okay, real quick on this. I notice when I'm having discussion with people, they're confusing certain aspects of the conversation when we're talking about currencies and exchange rate. So when you hear me talking about how a country wants to delete their zeros, what they're changing is the value of their currency. Now, when I say value, I don't mean value as in their currency against other countries. I'm talking about their currency used locally. So right here, you have a $100 bill. We know that this is worth 100 single dollars. Up here in the corner where it says 100, that is the value we assign to this $100 bill. This is the number of units that this particular bill is worth. It's worth 100 units. If a dollar represents 1 unit, this particular bill is worth 100 single units or 100 single dollars. That's the value that we're talking about. So this is how I'm going to put this debate about the deletion of the zeros. I'm going to get it over with, and I'm going to show you guys how to win. So I challenge those gurus out there, especially Mark Z and Militia Man, who jump up and down and swear that the deletion of the zeros is off the exchange rate, which is wrong. But as I was talking to one of Militia Man's minions, they're going, I said, what do you mean? I showed you guys. And the guy said, the only thing I saw was notes that you wrote and you read from them. How do I know your notes are correct? And I said, oh, you know what? That's a good point. So my challenge to them is show me a research paper or an article where it says the deletion of the zeros is talking about foreign exchange rate. Show me a legitimate research paper that says that the deletion of the zeros comes from the exchange rate. Trust me, they won't be able to do that. They'll just make every excuse going, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to waste my time because they're wrong. So they won't, but I will. Here you go. Scientific research and academic publisher. Dropping the zeros between hope and reality for Sierra Leone, a critical review of the literature. This is their study on the deletion of zeros for their currency. Redenomination is the metamorphosis of a country's currency, typically as a result of inflation and currency devaluation, whereby old currency units are exchanged for a new one at a fixed rate. Now, when they say your old currency units in exchange for a new one at a fixed rate, example of that would be if Iraq goes to delete 3 zeros off their currency, a 1,000 dinar is equivalent to 1 dinar. So when you go into the store, they have the same equal value. So the 1,000 dinar is equivalent to the value of a 1 dinar. That's the fixed rate that they're talking about. Other justifications for redenominations are joining a currency union or decimalization. If inflation is the reason for redenomination, the conversion ratio is much greater than 1, often positive integral powers of 10. It just depends on the number of zeros you're dropping. So obviously you can't go to any of your banknotes that are lower than the denomination of 10. Banknotes that are 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, depending on the number of zeros that you're dropping. In simple terms, redenomination refers to the dropping or removal or cutting of zeros. In the case of hyperinflation, the ratio can go as high as millions or billions or even trillions if you think about the Zim notes. Accordingly, redenomination will affect all economic values such as price of goods and services, financial assets and liabilities, salaries, court fines, shares, stocks, treasury bills, fixed deposits, pensions, and other social benefits. Then it goes on to talk about when you're changing the picture on it or the name. We don't care about that. So right here, in terms of exchange rate, redenomination is symbolic as it does not have an impact relative to other currencies. So when you redenominate or delete the zeros off your currency, it doesn't affect your exchange rate against other currencies. It's only a local thing. So I'll make sure to leave the link for you guys to see these articles. So that's how I'm proving my point. I have actual articles or research papers that you guys can read for yourself. Let me see them produce any kind of proof that the deletion of the zeros means the change in exchange rate. Here's another one. This was in LinkedIn. Redenomination of currencies, cost and benefits for emerging economies. Currency redenomination is the process by which a country modifies the nominal value. That's when I was just showing you on the $100 bill. The nominal value is the value that we assign to our banknotes. So a country modifies the nominal value of its currency without changing the actual value or purchasing power of the currency. So remember in the other article where it says they're exchanging your old currencies for the new ones with the missing zeros, but they are at a fixed rate. Typically, to achieve this, the country's zeros are subtracted. Redenomination differs from devaluation in that it simplifies a currency's nominal representation rather than changing its actual worth. Redenomination differs from devaluation in that it simplifies a currency's numerical representation rather than changing its actual worth. So I'll leave that article as well. Now, like I was saying, I was chatting with one of Militia Man's minions. They're right. I was only showing them notes off my papers, but now you have the actual proof. These are in research papers. There is a lot of research out there about what happens to currencies when you delete the zeros. So one of the contributing economic factors in determining whether you're going to delete the zeros from your currency or make a change to your exchange rate is inflation. Hyperinflation is the extreme form of inflation, characterized by a rapid and sustained increase in the general price level of goods and services in an economy. It is typically associated with high rates of money supply growth, a decline in value of the nation's currency, and a significant decrease in purchasing power of money. So if you remember, when Saddam Hussein was around, he was printing dinars like they were going out of style. So he had a large money supply. So if you think about supply and demand, if you make too much of something, then it loses its value. So there was a decline in the value of Iraq's currency. And because of that, it caused a significant decrease in the purchasing power of the dinar. Hyperinflation can be triggered by various factors, including physical imbalances, excessive money supply growth, war, political instability, and economic mismanagement. These factors combined can lead to a vicious cycle of increasing prices and currency devaluation, which further erodes the purchasing power of money and exacerbates the inflationary pressures on the economy. If you remember the video of Dr. Shabibi, when he was speaking, he said that once they deleted the zeros, then they would really have to monitor inflation. So here is where Iraq stands with one of the key economic factors when making a decision for deleting the zeros or changing the exchange rate. It says an ideal target inflation rate for countries considering redenomination is around 2 to 4%. This range has been widely accepted by central banks and economists as the sweet spot for promoting stable prices, full employment, and sustainable economic growth. So 2 to 4% is where Iraq needs to be. So this is where Iraq's inflation has been over the last 10 years or so, but also a prediction up until 2028 of where their inflation is going to be. As you can see, here's 4% and here's 2%. And over the last several years, for the most part, they have been below 4%. And they actually average between the 2 and 4%. So that's the sweet spot. I remember Dr. Shabibi said that as far as inflation is concerned, Iraq was ready. They were good. They were right where they needed to be. And if you look at where they are now for 2023, they closed the year out at 5.34%. And again, if you go between 2020 and 2023, as far as inflation is concerned, part of the inflation was because of the Rona breakout. Plus, we had an issue with the government getting established. There was a whole year in which the government wasn't there. So these things contribute to the inflation rate. But now the anticipation is that you'll start to see the rate drop. So there you go. That's how you put an end to this debate once and for all. They won't find any kind of paperwork to support their statement that the deletion of the zeros means coming off the exchange rate. A redenomination is not the same as a revaluation of a currency. Also, I just showed you one of the key economic factors for Iraq when determining whether to lop the zeros off is inflation. And there's a sweet spot between 2 and 4%. And that's where Iraq normally averages. So they're good. So that's one of the key factors. I will let you guys know what the other ones are. And then I'll let you know where Iraq stands. Anyways, that's it for now. To Militia Man's little minion. There, I showed you some articles. Anyways, leave a comment down below and I'll get back at you later. I'm out.